Greetings, this is Greg. Let's run a Jeep Wrangler with the 2-liter turbo engine on the dyno. The Jeep is upgraded with the Euro+Drive tune from Eurocompulsion for extra power, and after the run I'll go over the specifics. So without further ado, let's bolt up the stock wheels and tires, get the Jeep strapped down on the dyno, and there it is on the right side of the screen. Dee is going to do the dyno pull for us. She is very knowledgeable on this dynamometer. She's essentially the Duchess of dynamometer testing. The dyno screen is on the left side, and in the upper right corner of that screen are 4 boxes. Those will show power, RPM, engine RPM, vehicle speed, and torque. Now, below those are 5 boxes. Those are for sensors that are not connected, so they don't mean anything, other than the one in the bottom right corner that shows ambient air temperature in the shop. So right now, Dee is accelerating to get into the gear she has selected for this test, most likely 4th gear. And once she gets there, she will start decelerating until, there we go, she's decelerating now, until she gets below the RPM at which she wants to start the test, in this case 2,000 RPM. So once she gets there, boom, she goes to full throttle, accelerates the Jeep up to whatever RPM she's going to, probably about 5,600. The Jeep is not a high RPM screamer. The engine in this thing is set up for low and mid-range, which makes sense considering the type of vehicle it is. And the lines on the graph don't mean anything yet. The dyno is still calculating. Once it's finished, it will make the graph and put it up on the screen. And there we go. So I think it's 270.2 wheel horsepower. We'll have to zoom in here and take a look in a moment. The torque number there is not the peak torque. We'll take a look at peak torque also in just a second. Dee will come out, shut off the camera. Now we'll zoom in. I'll draw black X's through the parameters that were not being measured because sensors for manifold pressure, air-fuel ratios, oil temps were not hooked up for these runs. The dyno has the capability to monitor just about everything: ignition timing, knock sensors, throttle position, catalyst temps, and so on. And all of that stuff is hugely useful while tuning, but these were just runs to see the power, so no need to hook it all up. The vertical line on the chart shows where RPM, miles per hour, torque, and horsepower are being referenced for those boxes on the right. So in the box on the right there, that's not the peak torque, it's the torque at that point on the chart, which is 285.4. Horsepower is 270.2. Now I'll slide that line to the left to display peak torque. That's a gain over stock of 37 wheel horsepower and 57 pound-feet of torque. All dyno results in this video are numbers at the wheels. Now before we get into more dyno runs and more tuning options, because Euro+Drive is not the only one we have, I need to disclose a few things. I recently became part owner of Eurocompulsion. My son-in-law Toby did 99% of the development and testing of this tune. That said, it's the dyno that tells the story here, and I made sure to film the run at an angle that allows you to see the vehicle and the dyno screen at the same time. I think that's important. The Jeep has 2 additional mods on it which affect power, although not all that much. It's featuring a Borla axle back exhaust, and that's been on the car almost since new, so it was on there for the stock runs as well as all of the tuned runs. As it's not a variable, it's just not a factor in comparisons here, but it does add a very small amount of power, perhaps 2 or 3 wheel horsepower at the most. I do like it, but it's mostly for looks and sound. Now that's not a criticism of Borla. It's an excellent product, but no axle back adds much to the Jeep. That's just not where the restrictions are. Again, it sounds great though, and I really do like it. The Jeep also has a Eurocompulsion intake with the stock air filter in it for all the runs we did in this video, but not for the official runs from the EC website. Those use the stock intake. I'll talk more about this intake system later. These are the official results from the website. The numbers are again taken at the wheels, and as you can see, it's making 263 wheel horsepower for a gain of 30 wheel horsepower over stock. Torque is up to 340 pound-feet at the wheels for a gain of about 60 pounds over stock. So our results today have slightly higher horsepower, slightly lower peak torque. The lower torque has to do with the way the dyno was set up. It has a mode which loads the rollers prior to the run to get exhaust flow up before the pull starts. The idea there, or the reason for that feature, is to more accurately simulate real road conditions. We're not using that mode today, so the turbo spools up a little later. No big deal, I just wanted to point that out. Let's do another run with the Euro+Drive tune. This time we let the temperatures cool down before the start of the run to be about equal to what they would be on the road. So once again, the Jeep's on the dyno, D's in there. This was done on the same day as the run you saw a few minutes ago. And it's just like the run you saw before. Right now she's accelerating to get it into her desired gear. Once it's there, she will start to decelerate, which is now. And once she reaches her selected RPM of 2000, she'll immediately go to full power. And the car will accelerate and do its pull. And once it gets there, we start to decelerate again. And again, while the Jeep is decelerating, the dyno is doing its calculations. This deceleration is a big part of the way the dyno calculates flywheel horsepower and torque, although we're not looking at that today. We're only interested in wheel power. So there we go. This one did 273.9 wheel horsepower. Run after run, we get between 270 and 274 wheel horsepower, depending on the temperatures of the vehicle at the start of the run. The reason we're seeing about 7 to 10 horsepower over the official EC dyno result is because of the intake, probably better atmospheric conditions, and because Toby did the runs for the official test and used a slightly below average result. In short, different day and the addition of a performance intake. I did the runs on a 57-degree day, which you can see in the video, in the dyno video and on the dyno screen at the bottom right. We are at an elevation of about 600 feet, so we are darn close to standard conditions in the ISA standard atmosphere. Back to the Jeep. The Wrangler 2-liter turbo comes in at a curb weight of about 4,000 pounds. Now that's a lot of weight for a 2-liter engine, even a 2-liter turbo, to move around. Furthermore, this one weighs a bit more, as stock Jeeps often do, because of the added off-road types accessories. In fact, this one is taken off-road. It is not a shopping mall queen, and when going off-road, it's usually running these giant wheels and tires, which weigh a lot. The extra torque and horsepower really helps turn those big wheels and move the Jeep on down the trail. The intake being used is Eurocompulsion's V1 intake, although with the stock air filter. This looks great, and when combined with a performance high-flow air filter, which we're not running here, adds about 5 horsepower. However, with the stock filter, it only adds about half that, so it's only adding just a small amount, probably a couple horsepower to the tune results. The intake is available in red or black. EC has other intakes as well, but this is the one I prefer. It performs well, looks great, and will last forever, and it's actually one of the lower cost options here, which is great considering it's made from premium material like Kevlar and silicone, and I really like the fact that I can put the stock air filter in there, which I think is the one to use if you're going off-road. Now, I'll compare the Euro+Drive tune to the Power Booster, another performance option from Eurocompulsion. We did that testing the next day, and we also did another run on Euro+Drive the next day, because weather conditions were about the same. So here are the dyno results. As you can see, the Power Booster isn't quite equal to the Euro+Drive tune, but it is pretty strong. Both are the same price, so why would anyone choose the Power Booster? Well, I suppose there are pros and cons to any two products. The downside to the ECU tune is that it's not possible to flash it in via the OBD2 port, which means we have to go with some other method. First, if you're not local, you can send in your ECU and have the tune put on. Obviously, this means you would be without your Jeep for a few days, but I promise you, when you get it back, you'll wonder how you drove the thing when it was stock. It really is a big difference, and with no downsides in terms of drivability. During normal driving, there will be no increase in fuel consumption or emissions. It will pass any emissions test, and this tune cannot be detected via the OBD2 port. We can also provide a clone ECU, which means you could then swap back in your stock ECU at any point if for some reason you wanted to, for example, if you sold the vehicle. Obviously, this is an additional cost as you have to pay for another entire ECU, but it's not as bad as you might think. check the Eurocompulsion.net website for current pricing. Obviously, I'll put all the relevant links regarding this video in the description. Now, the advantage of the Power Booster is that it does not require you to send anything in or even touch your ECU. It's a plug-and-play module, and I mean plug-and-play. There are literally no wires that don't simply plug into existing things on the car. Installation is easy, so is removal. Once removed, there is no trace that it was ever there. This makes it a popular choice for leased vehicles, as you can take it off the car and keep it for use on another vehicle or sell it. Both of these options are good choices. We've tested these products extensively. The Euro+Drive tune has over 2 years of development and testing, and the Booster has pretty close to that. We own and use the Jeep as I think it was intended to be used, and we did not only test it on the dyno, we tested it every way we could. All seasons, all weather, on-road, off-road. It was used for long road trips and so on. This product was not rushed to market. We took the time to get this tune right and the other Jeep performance right. Whatever your tuning needs, ECU tuning, a power booster, performance intakes, boost gauges, all sorts of stuff, Eurocompulsion has it, along with a myriad of other Jeep products. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye, and have a great day.